All right, aloha. We are back with Dave Atias. This is our third or fourth interview now.
I think it's third, something like that.
Third, all right. All right. So in the past week, Dave has gone to an urban agricultural conference and had a parade.
Well, it wasn't my parade. It was the Rochester St. Patrick's Day parade,
Right
which
on.
I had sometimes shy away from in terms of having the greens in it. Mostly because it's St. Patrick's Day parade. You're gonna get a lot of drunk folks.
Yeah.
They start their morning drinking,
Right.
and
That's true.
yeah, it's not all bad. But it's also Rochester in March, so it could be 25 degrees and snowing. It could be 70 degrees and sunny. It could be raining. It's everything in between in Rochester. It's one of the actual cool things about being up here. You get all four seasons, but sometimes you get them all in like a day.
I'm
It
from
really does. There has been times where it's been in the 70s and then in the next day it's in the 20s.
I'm from
So,
Dayton, Ohio. It'll do that there too in the winter, or not in the winter,
absolutely.
but the fall and spring.
Yeah, but so we signed up the Green Party, the local Greens signed up to be in it, and then it's like a month ago, and then right after that, some folks who I've been working with, and again, this is if you identify as a Green, hopefully that's not all who you hang around. So
Right.
we started all the people that I've been doing like weekly protests against genocide and pro Palestine, just kind of hey, we're in this parade. You should join us. And they were thinking the exact same thing because some of these folks were in the parade last year,
Okay.
and we just happened to sign up for the local PSL group did,
Okay.
Party for Socialism and Liberation. And normally, I'll be honest with you, when the Greens were in a parade, if we have 10 people, it's a good showing. And combined with all of us, we had over 50 and an amazing group of folks. And the banners we had were just unbelievable. D- the folks that joined us really have done their bannering before.
Okay.
There was an art build and we all got together in a basement of a church and just created some amazing stuff. And there was that. And just from this, I learned a lot more doing the research of just how the struggle for Irish unification really is tight with the struggle in Palestine right now.
Oh yeah.
And if you've been watching the local or the more current news, uh, Ireland is really on board with supporting Palestine. They closed down the Israeli embassy in Ireland and turned it into a museum on Palestine.
Oh well.
Yeah, that
that's
hardcore. I
that's
mean,
pretty
they're not
crazy.
messing
Yeah.
around. And so we were able to do a lot of banners that showed that connection. And I'll say,
Okay.
other
Yeah.
than two, maybe three people in the entire parade, like who were watching, who were negative, everybody was really down with it, and it just went over really well. And there were bands in the parade, like marching bands and Irish music and things like that. But we had some folks on like drums and with bullhorns and doing chants, and it really went over well. All the different flags between from Irish flag and Palestinian, and in some banners that kind of combine the two, and just really amazing. And when I signed us up, you usually give a blurb when you pass by the reviewing stand, and they'll announce you, and here comes the Green Party, and they're for nonviolence and grassroots democracy, that kind of thing. And I did write a little blurb in there, but the person with the microphone was just speechless, kind of, and he was just kind of, and I guess it's their First Amendment right. He didn't know what to say. It was it was pretty in a good way. It was really
Right.
cool. So it was a I had I don't have lit yet. In fact, we're in the middle of working on that. And but I what I did have is business cards for my campaign,
Okay.
and the 400 plus cards I had left all gone.
Nice.
Gave them out to the crowd, and it was just awesome. So it was all positive with inner exception.
Right on.
So when we got the one thing about this parade, usually when you join up, at least around here, you get into a parade. There's the Pride Parade coming up in July, Puerto Rican Parade, Festival Parade, which should be in August, Labor Day Parade. You know who's in it. You get the lineup at least a week ahead of time, if not more.
Okay.
We didn't get it till the very last minute. Everybody didn't get it till the very last minute for this one. And when I got it, I looked at it. ICE and the U.S. Border Patrol were in the parade,
They had a
like
float or something?
in the parade. They weren't there hanging out. They were in the lineup.
Wow, that's pretty. What
Yeah,
did they
that
have a
was
float?
really. What's that?
Did they like have a float or like a?
It's, I don't know, a detention van with flowers all over it.
That's crazy.
So they ended up having just like some SUV with like a one of those black and white American flags with a green line on it.
Okay.
I don't remember what that
Green
one
line.
stands for.
Yeah, I
I
don't
know
know
the
what the
blue
green
one
line
is for
is. Police. Yeah, the blue is for police. I don't know what
police,
the
yeah, but I
green.
don't know what green stands for. So they had that on it, and that was it. There wasn't a float per se,
Okay.
but it was interesting. And one of the I don't know what agency they were from. It was definitely something police or military, all black, like an Escalade kind of thing. And there were some kind of officers with Kevlar on, with no name on the chest.
In the
So I have no
parade.
idea what agency we were from. But dude knew me because he gave me the finger. So that
Okay.
was nice.
So
Yeah.
those people were in the parade.
Yeah.
Okay, that's crazy. That's
Yeah.
weird.
So cops gave me the finger. So it was a good day for me.
Right on. They're
Yeah.
probably not down with the pro Palestine that much.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just because of the way we were dressed or dude actually knew who I was. I don't know. But either way, it was a good day.
Right, right. That's good. Sounds like a good day.
Yeah, it really was. And I'm noticing from that, I can tell you, and then we can work into the conference on this, is just from the work that I've been doing, I'm starting to get more recognized as a candidate. People I have no idea who they are, or if I've met them, it was a long time ago and I don't remember, are recognizing me. So I was at the Rochester Urban Agricultural Conference yesterday. It was just yesterday, and I had a couple people come up to me who recognized me. One person thanked me for running. Um, it was during a break. I actually went out of the conference during lunch and I ran an errand. Okay, this is gee, I went to get pickles.
No.
I can't be without pickles. And I went to the public market. I have my pickle guy, right? And I don't know, we don't know each other. I'm only there like once a month or so. But I stopped by and I got what I needed. And he goes, "All right, Dave, thanks a lot." Like we've never exchanged names. So the pickle guy recognizes me now.
All
So
right.
which and it sounds silly, but it just means that the work that I'm doing, now whether that guy lives in the city and he's going to vote for me, I have no idea. But the things that I'm doing is starting to work
Yeah, get you noticed.
to some degree.
That's the
And
whole
it's
point,
only
though, right?
March. The election's not till November. So,
So,
and there's a lot of work to be done still. So, I mean, if it's starting with that now, this far ahead of the actual election, I'm
yeah,
used to
that's
getting 5% of the vote.
five
So
percent.
let's see. I gotta be, like I said before, gotta be in the top five, and that's all.
Right on. Sounds like you're on your way, though. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. It's been, and my petitioning was today, the 23rd. So my petitioning starts in about 3 weeks.
2 weeks, and that's to get on the
And
ballot.
yeah, to get on the ballot, and that's 2,500 signatures in 6 weeks, and already have it laid out, like where I'm going to be to do it, where I'll need volunteers to come and help when we do group things,
Okay.
and other than Easter, because I'm talking if there's no. I shouldn't go around bugging people for politics on Easter. That's a
Oh
little
yeah,
weird.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, you
Other
got to
than
take
that
some
day,
days off.
I am out every day. It's
Right
going to be
on.
6 straight weeks, except for Easter, of either knocking on doors or being at the public market or going to what we have our Lilac Festival here. Just being at things every single day.
Do you know?
Um,
Have you ever thrown a town hall?
what do you mean?
Like like where you sit just in a room with like a bunch of people from the town, like a town hall, and they get
Oh
to
yeah,
ask you
yeah,
questions and go back
yes.
and forth.
We are actually working on trying to do something on May 10th. That's
Okay.
on climate change. Um, having a little there's been some speed bumps there in terms of getting it set up, but we're working on that. And I was doing a lot of that work and I just needed it off my plate because of all the other things I'm doing and running for office. And somebody just took it off my plate. So I'm
Nice.
hoping that that's going to be set up. Something that we can announce in the next week. But yeah, we have some panelists in mind that we want to invite and getting other environmental groups on board to co-sponsor. And we're going to have it a downtown at a local college. And that's the getting the space is really what's holding us up right now. There's just
Right.
this, I'm used to doing things where it's not quite as involved, but because we're involving a more official institution, it's not like a church basement or something like that. This
Right.
is
Yeah.
a local college. They want insurance and they want all this other stuff. So we're just getting all of that stuff taken care of, and then we can announce it and line up the panelists and get the infrastructure ready to have people come and speak, like citizens come and talk about climate change and environmentalism and how it's affected them. That's kind of the goal, and it's still going to be in the petitioning window. So I'll hopefully be able to get signatures at it as well.
Right on. Sounds
Yeah.
excellent. Yeah, town hall is something I'm trying to look into start doing a little bit. I think those are probably pretty productive.
Yeah, it's just getting folks to go.
So,
And I want to live stream it. So
yes,
I'm
yes.
hoping it just it just worked out. The person who's probably doing all the technical stuff at the college is actually a really good friend of mine. It just worked out that way. So I mean, I'm pretty sure I can work with him to make sure this thing can get up and be live streamed so that folks all, well, technically all around the world can watch it. That
Watch
would be
it.
pretty cool.
Climate change affects us all.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, it's. I mean, I want it to be focused on the city of Rochester
Right.
and like environmental racism and how climate change is going to change our city because it will. Just talking, we were talking about the weather a second ago. This is the Northeast, especially around where I am in Rochester, New York, is really a good place to live, especially if you're dealing with climate change. We don't have hurricanes. We generally don't have earthquakes. Don't get any tornadoes. I mean, we get some snow in the winter. So you shovel. You got to shovel. But your house isn't going to wash away in a mudslide.
Okay. So you guys don't get no
Right.
tornadoes?
Nope.
So
No, not here. Maybe a little bit downstate, closer to the Pennsylvania border on occasion,
Okay.
but nothing that's
Yeah, where I'm from in Dayton, Ohio, we get tornadoes. Like
right.
we get big
Right.
tornadoes sometimes.
So we're totally expecting with climate change refugees, whatever you want to, however you want to. That's a term I've
So
heard.
yeah, you're gonna see a population increase.
That's what we think is because of just of what's happening around the country. And I mean, like my daughter right now lives in South Carolina, and
So hurricanes for her.
I'm yeah, I'm worried.
Yeah, so,
I mean, the hurricanes are stronger. I don't know if they're more, but I know they're stronger now.
yeah, my mom and dad live in Florida, and sister also live in Florida, so they got to worry about the hurricanes also. So
I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. I'm 58 years old, and I definitely don't want to shovel anymore. But I don't want to board up my windows either. So
right, yeah.
yeah, I'll take it. I'll get it. We've got a snowblower. I got shovels. It'll be my exercise over the winter. But yeah, I don't want to deal with that other stuff.
Yeah,
So
hurt.
we have to be ready for that. And I'm hoping this town hall we can start talking about that because and it came up at the agricultural conference a little bit because look, you want to have urban agriculture, you want to have it in the city. Well, back in the day, like like 1900s, so we had factories here, and they didn't know anything about lead
Right.
and heavy metals and stuff like that. And we definitely have brownfields here, and it was interesting. There was
So,
someone there.
Can you explain what a brownfield is to?
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know what that is.
it's fair enough. It's a piece of land that is so contaminated that when because you say grass would grow on it and that would be green or anything
Okay.
that's plant life you label it green, right?
Yes.
So because it's contaminated, even if something grows on it, it gets the nickname brown, so it's a brown field.
Okay. And so it's contaminated
And
with lead mostly.
yeah, and so we have a few places locally that are pretty infamous in terms of, hey, this oil plant refinery back in the day was right here next to the Genesee River, and you just can't use it right now. And they keep having discussions of how they're going to remediate this piece of land. And so in one of these sessions I was in, there was an environmental lawyer. And so you would think this guy he knows his stuff, and I'm sure he does, but he seemed to be very steeped in what the conventional solutions were.
Yeah.
His take was the only thing you can do is scoop out the bad soil, throw it in a landfill, and then put clean soil on top of it, which is the conventional way of dealing with a contaminated piece of land.
Sweep it under the
But
rug.
but we're learning that there are different things that'll remediate those heavy metals. There are specific kinds of mycelium
Right.
or
I was gonna say that.
mushrooms,
Yes.
fungi, that will completely eat and process the heavy metals. And like you would think, I thought when I first learned about this, great, then you have contaminated mushrooms, but they process it. Like these mushrooms are not contaminated at all once they process it. And I've been trying to talk about this in my kit. Well, I have been, but who's been listening
Right.
for at least since 2019, and
Okay.
doing it again this time around, or will be. I haven't quite gotten to my environmental plank yet. Um, but it's been quite interesting on how, like someone who's an environmental lawyer is still, hey, scoop that dirt out, get it out, and replace it with fresh stuff. Okay, could do that. It still puts contaminated dirt in a landfill somewhere.
Right. And it's gonna still seep somewhere. It's gonna get out a little
Yeah,
bit
I mean,
somehow,
just because it's out
somewhere.
of our site doesn't mean that's still a good thing. So,
Right.
I would totally love to have, and I know of a local expert who is trained in this stuff, and I would love to have him on board to say, hey, this is how you do it.
Cool. Maybe bring him on one time if you can. We'll talk about it.
Oh yeah, let me write that down. That would be amazing to have Chris come on.
And then about the mycelium, I've heard it does that to plastic too. That it can break down plastic and other.
I know that yeah, I know there's some certain type of earthworms that'll break down styrofoam.
Okay. Yeah. So
And I've read a little bit about that. I haven't gotten to plastics yet, but there's some mushrooms that'll do plastics too.
yeah, that's what I've heard. So
All right, well,
that'd be nice.
all right, I'm gonna look into that too.
Cool. So speaking of bringing, you said his name was Chris onto the podcast. You told me you were on Altered Parties podcast a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah. Right after I don't know if there's any connection. I don't know if this person saw our first time together, but right after we did our first stint, he reached out to me.
Hopefully
And
they did.
It's a completely audio.
Okay.
I mean, he has. I mean, they have their show on Apple and Spotify and like a lot of audio podcasts do. He also does YouTube, but there's not any picture. There's like whatever
Just their sign or whatever.
pictures or graphics going on. Yeah.
Right.
It's a small little podcast, but hey, I totally understand. I've kind of started those myself before in the past, and
Are you
and getting my word out is awesome, but helping somebody else grow as well is also cool.
Have you been looking to do other podcasts?
It went well. He basically just opened it up and just let me go for 20 minutes,
That's good.
which yeah, that was. And then mushrooms on plastics. I want to look that one up. Cool. So part of a lot of what was there at the urban agriculture conference, a lot of it was, I mean, I had some details that I didn't know about. A lot of reaching out, talking to people about just getting to know people who they were really big on. Make sure you talk to people you've never met before. That vibe was pretty cool. So like no matter what group you were in, no matter what who you were hanging with, no matter what topic you were in your breakout session, they were really big on make sure you introduce yourself to people you haven't met before, which is cool because I don't do that very well on my own. So that was good that they gently encouraged you to do that. And then within that conversation, was able to talk about the campaign and because you would say why you were there,
Right. Okay.
what's your interest in being at this conference, and I can say, hey, I have my own yard that I want to do. Where actually my wife and I are trying something we've been talking about, but haven't done it, and I'm a little nervous about it. We're trashing our front lawn.
Trashing it.
We're getting rid of it.
Okay. What are you gonna do with it? You gonna make a garden?
Yeah, but it's going to be really kind of pollinator, wildflower with maybe some edible stuff right in front near the sidewalk that people can walk by and pick and eat as they go along. But if it doesn't work, Then I just got this really ugly looking thing out front, and all the neighbors point and stare. And
Well, gardens are actually a little bit easier to plant than most people think. Like, people think they don't have a green thumb because if you take one seed and plant one or two seeds at a time and try to grow a plant in your house, it's not how it works, right? They might die. But if you open up a papaya or a fruit, it has like hundreds or thousands of seeds in it, right? So, like,
yeah,
nature knows only a few of these seeds are going to survive, right? So, when you plant a garden, your favorite thing might not live, but like a whole bunch of stuff is going to live around it. Like, because nature will say what it wants to live and what it doesn't want to live, right? But if you plant
yeah,
enough stuff, nature's going to bring you some stuff back, right? It's going to live normally. But like on that, I went down to Florida because like I said, my dad lives down there, right?
mm,
And he had the shrubs like everybody has that you square up the shrubs all around his house. And so I'm like, these don't do anything. Can I take these up? And he's like, yeah, if you really want to. So I pulled up all the shrubs around his house and then started planting like you said, flowers and different things around the house.
yep.
But then I started planting trees in the yard. Like we planted a banana tree, planted this big old aloe in the yard, planted a pomegranate tree, planted a what do you call it, a papaya tree, and then you start planting smaller plants and like asparagus and stuff. Like asparagus is just like grass, but it's like a tall, thick grass, right? And it's a
Yeah,
perennial. So once you cut the asparagus and take the asparagus, you just leave it there and it grows again. So
right.
and so it's the same with okra and a lot of things. Like you could do that with peppers. Like you take the peppers, they'll last for years. A pepper plant will last for like 7 or 10 years, just giving you peppers the whole time. But
Oh dear.
yeah, so there's a lot of
I've
stuff you can do
I've
with,
been
with
I've
like
been
the garden.
composting them every year.
Oh, okay. No, like, well, if you're in a just a bucket, they won't last as long. But if you put them in the ground, they'll last a lot longer. Or if you have a bigger bucket, right? If you just have like a small pot, but if you have like say like maybe a 10 gallon or whatever, they'll last a lot
Yeah, yeah.
longer.
Will that work like when it snows and gets to like 10 degrees?
So what you're gonna have to do is look at your climate, right? So I don't know if peppers will last in your climate, but
Right.
there's a guy on YouTube named James Prigioni, and he's in
Okay.
I think New Jersey, and he does his yard, and he has a probably like a 10-year permaculture yard now, and I started watching him a long time ago when he started, and his stuff is just real intricate now. He has like stuff everywhere, and he knows like he has about the same temperature as you probably, so you could like if you watch his videos, you
Okay.
could probably plant pretty much the same stuff he does. But it's not hard to find your zone and stuff. You just look at what zone you're in and look at what plants thrive
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
Like you probably do peaches and plums because they need a chill, right? Certain plants need a chill for a little while before they.
So I did what you did. So when we moved into this house, there was this row of, man, I don't even know what they were. They were like death shrubs. They had thorns in them. I took every week I took another one out, and I would still my summer my arms were all cut up. No matter what kind of gloves I had, these things were horrible. I don't know who would want these in their yard. So it took a whole summer to get rid of them, and so now we have two apple trees in there.
There
We
you
got a
go.
little spearmint patch as well, and we got two more trees we want to put in this year.
There
We
you
want to try
go.
another apple, and I'm thinking peach maybe. I can't remember what my wife wanted, but yeah, we're gonna turn that little strip into our own little orchard kind of.
Sounds
And we don't have
good.
we're a city yard. We don't have a huge, it's not like somewhere out in the country or anything like that. So we're trying to use the space well.
Right.
It is not it's not instinctive to me, but I've been trying stuff since we've been here. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
There you
I
go.
I actually read this. Someone gave me this book about different kinds of hot peppers and like their background. And so I was reading this one story about these peppers that grow Mexico, New Mexico, Arizona, called chiltepins, which I had never heard of. But the story behind them was so cool. I was like, man, I know I'm up here, but I want to try and grow these. I still have, and I did two more. I have three of them now that are
Nice.
in my bedroom, wintering in pots.
Okay.
And I mean, it's not the biggest crop, but I got these weird little Mexican peppers. They look like little BBs kind of, and they're pretty hot.
Oh, nice. Are they tasty?
Yeah, I think they started out real like you would eat them and they'd be hot for like 10 seconds and it would fade away and taste fruity. But then I think from growing them up here, I think I've changed the flavor of them.
Oh,
They're just hot. They're not quite as flavorful anymore.
they don't get that warm love from the sun they get down there.
Yeah, I
A little
think
more
that's what it
cold and
is. But
angry.
I'm having fun doing it. It's
Yeah.
something that I can just say, hey, this isn't supposed to be here, but I'm trying it.
Right.
And it's not invasive. It's not growing anywhere else in the yard. It's just in these three pots.
Right on. That's cool. But yeah, I like that the permaculture stuff. We that's a big thing on the Green Party too. That's one thing we're
Yeah.
trying to spread or share. What?
So I got another. This is totally a different thing now.
Okay.
That I've been trying to do an Instagram reel on this all week, and it's just I don't know karma. Something's going on where it's just been not working each time, and I'm going to try this until I finally succeed. I don't know why this particular one is giving me so much trouble, but I was just about to go to bed, and probably a bad idea. I had the news on right before you go to bed.
Right.
It was the local news, and I'm watching this story about this. There was this press conference. There were members of current city council and some folks from a local nonprofit, or maybe a few nonprofits, I wasn't sure. And they're touting this 265-page report on child poverty in Rochester. It's actually the percentage, the stats are showing we have a 40% child poverty rate in the city of Rochester.
Wow.
That's,
That's
yeah,
high.
we're like in the top three in the country. It's pretty bad. But we've known this for a while, to be honest with you. This was not a surprise. And so city council, I didn't even know they were doing this. They spent this time bringing in all these nonprofits to give quote expert testimony, and they did this 265 page report. And I know it's that long because every news outlet kept saying it was 265 pages, like trying to really, this is serious, it's thick, it's 265 pages. And so I'm like, and somebody from one of the nonprofits comes on who I know and I actually like. He does good work, and their nonprofit actually does some good stuff. And he's like, "This is a policy failure. This is not the failure on any individual person who is in poverty. This is a policy failure." And everybody from city council behind him nodding, like real serious. Nobody getting the irony of they're the ones doing
Writing
the
the
policy,
policies.
right?
Right. Yeah.
Like, this is a policy failure. Well, you guys are the ones doing the policy.
Right. So you got any ideas?
Yeah. And you just spent this time doing a report, 265 pages, which I'm going to talk about in a second, of, like, their suggestions on what to do about it all started. There was 13 of them, because that was another thing they kept saying in all the news reports. It was like there are 13 recommendations. And they all start with continue doing this, continue doing that, continue doing this, maybe expand a little more. There was nothing new to fix this child poverty problem. So it's the people doing bad policy saying we should do more of it, maybe a little bit harder. And that was it. They spent months having hearings and dragging nonprofits in with expert testimony and doing all this stuff. And there is nothing in there that's going to change from it. But they're very proud of themselves for doing this. So I downloaded the report.
Nice.
You can get it online. And it was 30 pages of maybe report, and the rest of it was appendices that told you about all of the expert testimony in the nonprofits. There was no, that was it. So really, it was like a junior in high school who makes the margins in their report really wide,
Right.
so it looks longer than it actually is. And it was just like the biggest waste of time. And they got press out of it. They got to look like they were actually doing something.
So
And
the
no
actual report
reporter
part
would
was just
call them
30
on it.
pages.
What's that?
You said the actual report part though was just 30 pages.
Yeah, about 30 pages. Yeah.
And then the rest was just
That's
like
And like I said,
nonprofits.
it didn't say anything new. It
So-
had data that you could get from the census.
Can you
go
tell me some of
online
the
and
suggestions?
Just get stuff. What's that?
Can you tell me some of the suggestions you said just to redo what they're doing? Like, what are they already doing that they said to keep doing more of?
So they have they have programs here in the city which I think are okay. I think they're very let's put a band-aid on capitalism. First home buyer programs.
See, that doesn't help a
Other
lot.
things that'll like maybe cover closing costs if you want to buy a house in the city. There's a land bank. There's a city. The city has a land bank that honestly is made up of the board of it's like made up of the movers and shakers in the city that really don't don't have an interest in things changing too much.
Yeah.
Just they continue these little dinky programs. When there's grant funding available from federal or state governments. Their program that fixes roofs.
Okay.
That's awesome. But if the state doesn't give pony up money, the city just says, "Well, we don't have money this year. Sorry."
See, like I
So
always found it weird how nonprofits and them they get all this money in, and then they pay their people, and they'll do like these projects a little bit, maybe build a house or like do something, but then everybody's still in poverty that they're trying to help. Whether you could have just given those people the money and they wouldn't be in poverty now. I find that so weird. Like you're not. It's such a simple thing. Like if like the Clinton Foundation brings in like hundreds of millions to billions of dollars, right? Just hand that to poor people. They won't be poor, you know. And then if you got the
yeah,
money to pay rent, like oh, you can have somebody say, I'm gonna give you $30,000 a year for 5 years. Now that they know they're gonna be able to pay rent, they'll just go to school a little bit. They'll do something or find a job that they can move up in for the next 5 years or something. But
guaranteed universal income.
yeah, I'm all about that.
I might have moved the words around.
Universal basic income is
universal
what normally
guaranteed.
UBI is what most people call it.
Yeah,
Universal
yeah,
basic
yeah,
income. But I
yes.
mean, either way, just people should have their floor covered, right? Like it just should be like we
They
can do it, so we
and
should.
every cities like doing little. This Rochester just drives me crazy. Even though, well, no, not even though. So this town is strict. We've talked about this. Strictly Democrat, right?
Right.
There hasn't been a non-Democrat elected in the city in over 40 years here, but we are a really conservative town. Just we will not take chances. Anything we try to do has to have been done somewhere else first, and even then, we'll
Oh,
only do a
yeah.
trial, right?
See,
With like
yeah.
maybe 50 people or 50 families, or there was a guaranteed income thing just a couple years ago, and I think it was like 75 families. That's it,
See, that's not
just
a
to
big
see how it
enough.
worked, and then you don't hear anything. So
Right.
one year they did actual, honest to goodness participatory budgeting, where they had $1 million and they split it up amongst the four quadrants, and they had this way for people to get involved and for each quadrant to decide what to do with that money. Actual participatory budgeting, and now gone. They did it for one year.
How'd that
That's
work
it.
out? Do you remember?
I thought it worked fine. I think some of the folks, I think it was so new that people didn't quite get. They were talking about beautification stuff a lot, which is awesome. I don't have a problem with planters on the side, alongside the sidewalks and things like that. I have no problem with that. But if you got people in poverty, I would steer the money towards that stuff first. And
Right.
I think with more practice and more understanding of, hey, you can actually do some serious stuff with this money. You could do almost pretty much legal, whatever, as long as it's legal, whatever you want, right? You could fix up boarded up houses and give them to poor families.
Exactly. There's more. There's like 6 times the amount of empty homes than there are or homeless people in America.
Oh, I just did a thing a few weeks ago because I was in these neighborhood association meetings, and here in Rochester, they always have a police officer at them to talk about crime stats. And they were saying, yeah, we're currently going around to the 1,500 boarded houses in Rochester to make sure no one's squatting in them.
See.
And no one questioned, why are there 1,500 boarded up houses in Rochester?
Right, and so like a police force or like the army force to me should be going around neighborhoods fixing stuff up. Like why are we always just going around breaking stuff? A boarded house should be used as a school or a home for somebody who needs it, right?
Yeah.
You know, just
We every year we wring our hands and we clutch our pearls and any other cliche you want to use about the amount of students we have in the city school district here who are homeless during the school year. Their families are homeless, living in cars. And yet oh my God, this is horrible. What are we going to do? And then we don't do anything. And we have 1,500 boarded up houses.
right,
Hey, here's an idea.
right. Open them up.
Yeah, and I called for that. It is in my housing plank.
But see,
So,
that's one thing about the
so
U.S., right?
I mean, I am doing this tonight, Jordan. I am going to make sure this video gets done tonight. I've tried it 5 times and something always screws it up about this dumb report, and I will do it. If I have to sit here until 2 in the morning doing this video over and over again, it will be on the internet sometime today.
I wish you luck on that video.
All the other ones have been great. I haven't had a problem. For some reason, this one just seems cursed. I don't know what the.
It's probably just such a big topic, right? It's probably hard to put on a TikTok about poverty, children in poverty.
Well, that's true. I mean, actually, I think I'm so incredulous and annoyed with it that maybe that could be the problem. That I just having a problem staying focused. That could be it.
See, like in the U.S., we like to we think that we're a great country because we have the richest man in the world or something like that. Like I think a society should be like judged more on the floor, right? Like what does the bottom of your people look like rather than the top one or three? Because
Hmm.
like we've had kings all through society, right? That doesn't all through history. That doesn't make you a great society. We should have the highest floor for all the people.
Oh, I like
Then you
that.
would be the greatest society, I would think.
Yeah, the highest floor and the lowest ceiling. I don't know.
Well, you don't
Sound
necessarily
pretty
have to have a low ceiling to
sound
have a
pretty
high floor.
communist there, Jordan. I
But
don't know, man.
I've been called worse. But I mean, I don't think you have to have a low ceiling to have a high floor. You can still have a very high ceiling. The higher the floor gets, I think the higher the ceiling will get. But like, there's
Could
that.
be. It'd be nice to. It would be nice to find out, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there's that saying that the cure to cancer could be like in the mind of somebody in the hood or ghetto or something like that that's never going to see
Right.
school. I forget exactly how it goes, but
Yeah,
if
I
you
know,
have
but I know the concept. Yeah, yeah.
right, so if you have a higher floor, now you got more participants that can think, that do science, that do doctor stuff, that do engineering and create software. But then you get all the different imaginations, right? Because you're going to think a little differently if you come from South Rochester than if you come from West Rochester, or if you come from Rochester or Hawaii, or if you come from Mexico, right? But I guess Mexico, I guess wouldn't count on our floor right now, but New Mexico.
Well, okay. So now I might get this a little bit wrong, but wasn't there someone like how AI is developing? Because most of the people who are working on it tend to be white folks. That it's misidentifying, like when like facial recognition programs are misidentifying people of color.
That was I saw that with a hand washing thing too. That the receiver wasn't receiving black people's hands, and that the water wouldn't come on for black people, but it would come on for white
Wow,
people because they.
wow,
I guess
that
if
I
you
did
didn't,
not hear.
but like if you don't test it right, and like the white skin probably reflects a little differently, right? So then you never test it on black skin. You don't know how it reflects as much or whatever. So then the thing wasn't measured in for that. So yeah, like I can see that with AI too. Like if you're not thinking about it and you just this is what we do, and you're not thinking about what other people do, then or you don't even know what other people do, right? You might not be thinking about it, you just don't know, right? If you haven't seen
Yeah.
them or talked to them, then you don't know. But so again, yeah, that's why we should have a higher floor. More people need to be involved in this AI and robotics and everything, really.
Trying to bring it. I mean, I know there are some places that try to bring it in, into places where it hasn't been. We tried here in Rochester. I mean, you get a few of the kids. I mean, there's now now we're really going to get into something. I mean, it's that idea with our current generation or even past few generations is being smart is seen as being not cool.
Well, I think it's changing now a little bit. Being smart is being cooler these days. But
I hope so.
did you see the tweet by Vivek Ramaswamy? Like that was probably like a couple months ago, right before Trump won, or he was talking about in America, the kids sit on the couch and watch Saved by the Bell, and they praise the prom queen and the football guy. Where in other countries they praise like the smart guys, and they praise the teachers and the engineers and stuff like that. And so he was kind of calling out American culture a little bit, like how you like a little bit like you like just saying that like we don't
Yeah.
necessarily focus on the right stuff when we're young, and we haven't for a while. But it's kind of like the movie Idiocracy, right? Have you seen that?
It's on that thing. It's one. I'm not a big movie person, and I know it's one of those ones I have to see, and I have not yet.
I
But I've
mean,
heard I've heard the plot
I was
enough
about to
where
say
I
if you
know
didn't
what
want to
it's
watch the
about.
whole movie, just watching like a couple shorts would probably give you the gist. Because like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of it is kind of useless, just dumb humor, right? But like just that we worship dumb people. And now we got Donald Trump as president. they they have a President Camacho in that movie, right? And it's Terry. What's that big black dude?
Cruise.
Terry Crews. And so he has on like this long wig, and it's like a smooth hair, and he has like a American big old hat that's like a Abraham Lincoln shaped hat, but it's like
Oh,
red, white, and blue. And he comes out, he has a Uzi or whatever, like a big old gun. He goes, "Brrr, I'm President Camacho," and they're just all cheering him on while he's shooting just at random stuff. It's so funny. But it's kind of like Donald Trump when you watch it, and Donald Trump just how he could just say anything and they cheer him on. He's just like all crazy and bombastic, but it's so funny to watch the comparison. And that was before Trump was even there, so there really was no comparison. But you can do it now, and it's hilarious.
yeah. Well, they were just. I just happened to see this week. There was. I don't even know what the story was about on the news, but they were showing a clip from the last campaign, presidential campaign, and it was Trump bragging that he was going to bring us back to like the Gilded Age.
Oh, well, that's why would you even brag about that? That sounds
That's
terrible.
what I'm saying. He was like he was going to bring us back to like the end of the 1800s when tariffs were used, and I know the like he wasn't, and people didn't even get it, and they
Yeah,
were
some people
cheering
don't
it like you
understand.
said.
Some people don't understand what the words mean. Like Gilded Age, that sounds fun. Like, do you even know what the Gilded Age is?
Yeah, and so yeah, there are and makes me feel bad because I'm a history teacher, so I'm like, oh well, they weren't my students.
Yeah, that would make your stomach turn a little bit heart sink,
Yeah,
huh?
but I do have the occasional student. Yeah, we need to send the Mexicans back. Oh, dude, come on.
Gotta show them the original map where Mexico was.
Well, you walk that line as a teacher,
Yeah,
right? You
right. It's
got to
not
be
your
careful because
kid.
you know
Exactly
that's
right.
coming from home.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten calls. Well, I think we might have talked about that when I was teaching in Hawaii. We've gotten calls. I've gotten calls before that I'm showing the raw. I don't give the whole perspective, the white person's perspective or whatever. I've gotten that complaint, so I've gotten better at putting my stuff in, but not as hitting people over the head with it.
But I mean, like from you, I mean, not to judge, but aren't you white?
Yeah.
So then you should just be like, well, my perspective is a white man's perspective. Like no matter what you say, it's a white man's perspective, right?
There's well, the difference between the white man's perspective and a white man's
Right.
perspective. I'm giving a white man's perspective. They want the white man's.
Tell them you're giving it from a white man's perspective.
That's true. Yeah, that is true.
Right on.
Now, if
Yeah.
it happens to be, you know, here, look how Mexico used to be, or yeah, look at what Hawaiians lost, then well.
It's crazy when you don't like history. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's like it's history is history. Like you didn't do it, right? Like no one, like we didn't. I wasn't there when Mexico was taken or whatever. But that doesn't mean that we can't try to like make amends a little bit, right? You know, like we don't. Like none of us made the border. None of us alive now. You know.
It's fast. Well, that's I've had this discussion with my students all the time. I mean, my undergrad's in history. I'm not a name and dates person. Like I know I can go look it up. That they
Right.
don't stick those kind of things don't stick in my head. But what fascinates me is why people in history make the decisions they do. The psychology of it. And that's what really like okay, let's go with the Gilded Age. What what is it that those rich folk went through that made them think with all that stuff they were doing and keeping poor people down that was good? I feel the same way about guys like Donald Trump. It fascinates me. Not that I want this guy to stay in office,
Right.
but it fascinates me how this guy's brain works. Just
Well, if you never
man,
told no, right? He was born to a guy who was born rich. Like they were both. His
yeah,
dad was
Fred
born
Trump.
rich, and then he's born rich. And if your dad was never
Hmm.
told no, and you were never told no, and then
Right.
you think everything is supposed to be for you. I'm pretty sure, right? Like just get
Even dudes
whatever.
like Bill Clinton, who was born poor. What got him to that neoliberal kind of just not go literally like screwing poor people over
Well, they say
when he
power
grew up
corrupts,
poor?
right? You just want more once you get too much.
I guess, and it does make me wonder. At some point, I would like to think it's inevitable that folks who are like Greens or whomever will have some kind of power and what that's going to do. I
Well,
mean, so far, people who have been elected as Greens, it tends to be local. I have not heard of anything where someone gets into a town board and goes crazy. I
yeah.
haven't heard of that, right? This is my town now. I haven't, but I don't know.
Well,
What's going to happen when we have the first Green senator? Are they going to turn into Kristen
cinema.
Cinema?
No,
Yeah.
I would think not. But well, see, that's the kind of thing though, because Greens are pretty open and left, right? Like they talk about universal
Yeah.
basic income, universal health care, and to be a green, you got to talk that, and you got to kind of that's going to be on your platform, right? Like you want a higher minimum wage, if depending on the city, most cities you're going to want a higher minimum wage,
Yeah.
and all that. So you're gonna get voted in on that platform, on a green platform. So I would think that you would have to try to fight for that, and if you didn't, you would get voted out. You wouldn't be a green. I think the Greens would probably kick you out after a while if you were like, oh well, I'm voting
Yeah,
against
yeah.
universal health care.
I
Well,
hope
you're not a
so.
Green Party, you know.
Yeah, I would hope so. Well, I remember watching. Uh, it was after the fact, but during when Obama's first run,
Very
and
disappointing.
he was up there talking about ending wars and universal health care and all that jazz, and people were cheering him on. And then he got in, and
Up the wars. But
yeah, that just stopped
but see,
dead.
that's what a Democrat would do. Like I think that I would think that if a Green, like say Jill Stein did win, if she won last time or 2016 or whenever, I think the first thing that she would do would be say we're going to vote on universal health care. Like that would be almost what everybody would expect, Greens and Republicans and Democrats. I would think that's what they would expect from a Green president. That would be the first one of the at least one of the first 10 things we do in like the first day or week. You know.
Somehow to yeah, I mean the president getting something voted on in Congress is a little dicey. You got to have folks behind you a little bit, just procedurally.
Yeah.
My
Well,
understanding.
I mean, then like
No, but you the bully
yeah,
pulpit.
yeah. So
I
you
mean,
tell
you
people if
use
you
it.
want
Yeah, yeah,
universal health care, we're
absolutely.
going to hit the streets this day, this time. We're going to shut
Yep,
everything down,
absolutely.
and then
Well, look, I can bring that down to a local thing. So that's going to be let's say I win or I'm in the top 5 and I get on the board or I get on city council and I already know there's going to be folks that aren't going to want to go anywhere near the stuff I'm going to propose, my legislation. And and if it gets stalled, I'm going to have to say, "Hey, I'm going to have to try and get the media to call them out and
right,
say, hey, how come you won't let this legislation on a public utility get out of committee or go to a vote and make them defend themselves for not having something, not enacting something that people actually want.
right.
And I have to be artful in doing it. I mean, there's ways I can do it. I can come in and just be this blustery kind of, and they won't vote for this, or I can do as much schmoozing kind of behind the scenes and legitimately just have real conversations with people on the council, not to embarrass them like in public, but it's going to come to a point where if they won't move something,
Right.
I might have to get the media on it or try or and if they won't touch it, then I guess it will be up to me to call them out. But at some point, I mean, I've been calling them out from the other side of the where they sit, right? On
Yeah.
like they speak to
Civilian side.
council every month. I've been calling them out that way, but it's just one citizen as opposed to someone who's actually a fellow council member. So I'm mentally prepared for that, I'm not going to go in guns ablazing, pun
Yeah.
intended, being a green. Um, but I do know there's going to need to be some interesting conversations had, like behind closed doors, and saying, hey, some of y'all who have been on council have said you wanted these things and you won't write legislation for it. You won't vote on it.
So, of the people that are running, are anybody else what you would consider like left or left of the
Yeah, there's
Democrats?
a couple.
Couple.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah,
think
there's
that like a couple of you might make it?
well, one has been on
Oh,
has
okay.
already been on.
Okay.
So there's 20. I don't even know the Democrats are getting their signatures right now, and they got to be done soon, actually. So I don't know who's going to make it on the ballot for the Democratic primary. And then the
Okay.
primary is like towards the end of June. So after that's done, then I'll know who the Democrats are on that line. Some of them are also going to have the one pseudo left third party that's in New York State, the Working Families Party. So there might be a little discrepancy there, like Dems who are on there. A lot of times, whoever's running as a Dem are also on the Working Families line because in New York State we have fusion voting. You can be on more than one line,
Okay.
which I'm not a huge fan of, to be honest with you.
You're not a huge
It's the
fan
way
of
it is.
the being able to vote for more than one at a time. The fusion
Of
voting.
being able to be on one more than one line.
Oh. Why is that?
Well, so you have this situation here where folks you have all right, let's just say it was me and I'm on the Democratic line and I'm also on the Working Families Party line. And so someone says, "Well, I hate the way our government's going, so I'm going to do my protest vote. I'm still going to vote for Dave, but I'm going to vote for him on the working families line. That'll show them that I'm mad. But me, I don't care. I just get your vote,
Right.
and I'm just getting in no matter what. And if I know you're going to vote for me, no matter what line it is, I'm still going to do the same old thing because I know you're not going to vote me out. I couldn't care less if your vote for me is on the Democratic line or the working families line. I got your vote.
Well, see, I think it's kind of weird that somebody would try to vote like that. Because if I want to stick it to the man, I wouldn't. I would vote for the Green Party or somebody that's different. But
Or
if you
somebody else, or a third, right?
right, because if you're
Right.
gonna put your
And
name on the Democrat and something, then I know you're more Democrat. But because I was kind of thinking of something like that, but more for like the Green Party and DSA or maybe PSL.
if they were to go for their own line, yes, yeah.
Yes, because then or because like they don't have the access that we have to the ballot as
Hmm.
much in every state, right? So
Well, in New York, if PSL or DSA were to run their own candidate, they would need to get 2,500. Like, just stay with mine because it depends on what you're running for. They would need to get that same number of signatures. So you would be, so like if I wanted to be on both lines, I'd need like 5,000 signatures.
oh, okay, so
Yeah, yeah, it would be really
okay,
hard
you
to
have to
do
double
that.
it up. I see, I
Now,
see.
if the Greens had ballot status again, I would only need like 50 Greens to sign my petition. I'd be done in a couple weeks. It'd be pretty easy. And then I
So
could focus on getting that second line. But yeah, no, it's just the way they have it in New York. We are the toughest state to get on the ballot in the country now. Didn't used to be that way, but it is now. So
I think I've been hearing that from a few Greens around the nation that the ballot access isn't what it used to be. That I guess
yep.
they've been kicking us off all around, and now everybody has to get more signatures and is trying to get back on.
Yeah, that's
The
that's
Democratic
what
Party is
Democratic Party. Well, look what they did when Jill ran. Their their war chest, some of it went to continuing to sue the Green Party all over the country, so that our resources had to go to dealing with that as opposed to getting the word out to the people.
they are diabolical, man. It's
But
crazy the stuff you
for
find out.
better or worse, 46,000 plus write-in votes in New York State. That's a lot of write-ins. And we don't even think that's the full number because we think there were some counties that didn't even count their write-in ballots.
Damn.
So 46,000 write-in votes is pretty impressive.
Yes, that's a lot. But I just
So they should be scared.
I just get blown away by what they do, like how just shifty they are. They act like they're the People's Party or whatever, and people act like they're better than the Republicans. Or oh, we got to vote for them just because the Republicans are crazy or whatever. And the more you pay attention to the Democrats, are just like almost like not good people. You know, like it just seems like they're just almost like
That's
bad people.
There's some interesting, I don't have a better term for it, cognitive dissonance there amongst the rank and file. Like, just I don't know. They just think someday the ghost of FDR is gonna come back and protect our safety net or something, and it's just not gonna happen.
And I mean, they openly show you that they don't want democracy. They don't want you to have choice.
The leaders do, yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, not the people, voting for them, but
Mhm.
just the if you show all the time that you don't want to give people a choice, and I don't understand why people would keep choosing you. I'd rather vote for a Republican than a Democrat most of the time, just because I don't like how the Democrats treat people.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting, and it is a conversation that I've had with a lot of folks in terms like, you know, why do you do this? Why do you keep throwing yourself against the castle door like that? And it's like I'd rather go down with my values intact.
But
If this
somebody
doesn't
has to,
happen, yeah,
right? Like somebody has to.
yeah. I mean, it's as long as I can. I mean, every once in a while I'll get somebody who's like, "Wow, David, you're still doing this after all these years." I'm like, "Well, I've tried to not do it. It drives me crazy. I can't be involved in my community and watch the stuff and think, man, I'm just gonna go in the system and I'll change it all from within the system. I've seen people try to do that, and you just don't hear or see from them politically again. They're just gone. Folks who used to be green, folks who have run for office as greens. And I'm tired of this. I'm gonna go in, change it from within, and you don't see or hear from them again.
That's well, they turn Democrats
Activist
or
wise, I
disappear.
I don't mean they end up buried somewhere. I
Right.
just mean activist wise. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
They become part of the system.
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, that is the goal that we're trying to break that cycle, right? Get in there and stay people first.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I think we've talked about this idea before. Folks on the left who are like, I'm not going to participate in voting. It's a broken system, and I get that. I really do. But unless you're willing to literally take up arms, right, to
Yeah, like
break the system down, right? Unless you're real, there is no other way to change it.
I was
So then you've
thinking,
got to gauge, can you change it within the Democratic Party, or do you need to keep hammering away to get some other entity within the system to try to change it? But the only other way to legitimately, systemically change everything, the way we do things, to change a capitalist society, you throw in the first Molotov cocktail?
I'm going green. I'm trying to do it kind of within the
Yeah, I'm
system,
just
but
look, our local police departments have military grade weapons now.
right? And that's from the Democrats, right? That's the crime
Yeah,
bill in the 90s,
yeah,
and
that
people
was
don't
Obama
realize
started
that.
that. So like
Ain't gonna do
my
nothing.
pitchfork isn't gonna do nothing.
Right, even if you got one of those AK-47s, those big gun people, they got tanks. They got
They got tank. The
drones now,
police
really.
department, yes, not the military. They don't even need them. They got tank. Police department have tanks.
Right?
So
They got tanks, and then if they do use the military, they got boats, they got planes, they got all kinds of stuff. Some police
the
departments got boats too.
international law says you shouldn't be using chemical weapons. All of our police departments have tear gas
Right? That's chemical weapons.
as a chemical weapon. So
Right.
so so if that's so the people who like the electoral system sucks, I won't participate in it, but you're not doing anything to
The-
go after the system, then you're
right.
just sitting there talking.
If you don't
You know,
mess with
you're having a book
politics,
club.
politics is gonna mess with you.
Yeah, you got a book club. Have you read enough Marx? Have you read enough? Are you a Leninist or a Trotskyist? Okay, I don't know. I
People.
don't know. I got a community association meeting to go to. See ya.
Right. So,
I've read some Marx. I'm down with it. I'm fine with it. I'm just not gonna read everybody's analysis of it. I don't have time for that.
yeah. I don't. I don't really read as much Marx. Like I came to the way I am just by seeing society, just like thinking that there's enough around.
I got some under my belt. I felt I needed to get there just so I can have it there. I don't spout it. I couldn't even. I don't. Some people can quote it. I don't even know
Yeah.
how people can do that. But of anything, to be honest with you, I'm not a big quote person. But okay, I got some. I'm also reading some other things too. So
I talk about Marx a lot. I see him, like, people bring him up to me in my circles. I talk about him a lot. I know about him now. But just before, like, when people be like, oh, you seem like a communist, you're a Marxist, this and that. I'm like, who's Marx? And they're like, you don't know who Marx is and you talk like this? I'm like, no, what are you talking about? And then, yeah, now I know who he is and I know about him. But I came to this way without Marx, pretty much.
generally, me too. Yeah.
Right. Okay, well, Dave, it's been about an hour or so.
Woo.
You got anything else you want to get in?
No, man. I'm like I said. I'm right now. I'm just getting ready for petitioning to start in a few weeks. Taking care of a lot of stuff in the background, trying to get this stupid video done that I'm doing today. And I think it's going well. I mean, obviously, you don't know unless you got a lot of money to pay for polling and stuff. Which, even if I had the money, I wouldn't waste it on polling. Not gonna know how I'm doing until November. So it feels good. This does. This is the third time I've run for city council. This feels different.
Nice.
Now, we'll
So,
see if that translates. I don't know, but it definitely feels like, and part of it is I think people are ready to start opening up for a change, and part of it is I think I'm doing things a little bit better, and I do have a few more people helping out this time, and so I think there's a lot of things happening. And this time I'm running for an office where again it's not one on one. It's I got to be in the top 5. So let's find out. I'm. Let's go, man. I want to get this petitioning over. I want to get on the ballot and just be a real candidate and just get out there, start talking to folks.
sounds great. I mean,
I'm ready to go.
you sound like you're on your way. Obviously, I hope you win.
I do too. It means I won't be home a lot, but I do too.
Well, it
Yeah,
means
it'll be cool.
means things will get done for other people though too. So
That well, it's at least the conversation's gonna be better. That's for sure. If I'll be able to get it done. It's gonna be a new experience because it's something this town hasn't seen. So we're gonna have to see how everybody reacts if a green wins.
right on. But I
Yeah,
think the town will have your back.
some will absolutely. I agree.
Right on. All right, Dave. Well, we will talk to you next week. It's been a blast.
Thanks, Jordan. Always.
All right. Thank you.